O is for obey. If we're going to pray for God to tell us something, then we need to be prepared to obey. That's one of the conditions that God places on us, is that if we're too busy to obey what God says, then God may not bother to give us an answer. I mean, why bother with somebody who's not even going to open their mail? So, if we pray, we need to be prepared to obey. There's a story of an old Quaker woman. You know how the Quakers worship in their traditional manner? It's usually in silence. They sit in a room together and they wait for the Spirit of the Lord to touch somebody. And sometimes an entire hour will go by and nobody will say anything. That doesn't mean that the Lord is not speaking, but a Quaker service is being open, not to talk to the Lord, as many Protestant worship services do, but to listen to the Lord. And there was an old woman in this particular Quaker meeting. Whenever the service was over, she would rush out. It seemed to be impolite of her. She wouldn't talk to other people. In fact, she would barely acknowledge people on her way out of the Quaker meeting house. And somebody on occasion decided to speak to her about what seemed to them to be offensive. They said, "Why do you rush out? Why do you not talk to anybody?" And the old woman's response was, "Well, usually at some point in the meeting, God tells me something." She says, "I have to be sure and rush home and do it before I forget." We have to be prepared to obey. If we ask God for directions, we better be ready to respond. We better carve out some time and make that our time to respond. Be faithful to what it is the Lord leads us to do. And the Lord leads us to do things in different ways. Sometimes the Lord leads us to give somebody a phone call, or to send somebody a letter, or to visit somebody, or ask somebody a question that we've maybe been curious about but we've held off on. Obey. Pray